Welcome everyone, my name is Brendan Snyder. Thank you so much for joining me. This is Classic Album Review for Skid Row's second album, Slave to the Grind, which was originally released on June 11th of 1991. With this year being 2021, it is the 30th anniversary of this classic album. So join me as we take a look back at the groundbreaking second album. And before we do that though, if you are new to my channel and haven't already hit the subscribe button, please click the button. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things help support my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And as an added bonus, by subscribing, you'll be able to stay up to date on all that's going on in the world of music, just like this with Classic Album Review as we take a look at Skid Row's second album, Slave to the Grind. So despite the band coming up during the glam metal era, you know, as they formed in 1987 and released their debut in 1989, and while the first album itself is firmly rooted in glam metal, the band's second album, Slave to the Grind, which was produced by Michael Wagner, who also produced the debut, was considered an all-out heavy metal album. When it came out in 1991, it became the first heavy metal album to enter the Billboard 200 album chart at #1. In order to do this, it sold 134,000 copies its first week. Later, of course, it would be certified double platinum for sales of more than 2 million copies. For this album, the band displayed a much heavier sound though than the debut. They actually veered into elements of punk and even speed metal, but they did still manage to include, what was considered the surefire hit of the era, the power ballad on the album itself. Gone were also the cliched lyrics from the debut album. Instead, this one focused on more complex issues, criticizing things like authority, politics, drugs, religion, and even modern ways of life. Opening track, Monkey Business, I think was a really good way to start off the album. Of the album's heavier tracks, it was the closest in sound to the debut album, and so it made for a good track to pull the older fans in while bridging into that new heavier sound. And the band doesn't wait too long in order to introduce you to that new heavier sound. The second track on the album, Slave to the Grind, is that near speed metal track on here, save for Sebastian Bach's vocals on it. The version itself is actually the original demo of this song. When the band was in the studio, they did try recording a proper version for the album itself. They just felt they couldn't recapture the original vibe in the demo, so that's the version that appears on the album. And the band in total would release 5 singles from the album, but actually make 6 music videos. The 6th video was for the track number 5, Psycho Love, on here. This one is one of the more punk-influenced songs on the album. They shot a video in 3D and released a home video on VHS tape at the time called Roadkill that actually came with 2 pairs of 3D glasses so you could watch this special video. Now, the other 3 singles off of the album were all the power ballads. The 3rd single itself was track number 12, Wasting Love, and this one here would be the band's last real hit. It reached number 88 on the Billboard Hot 100. Cool thing was the B-side to this song was a cover of the Sex Pistols classic Holidays in the Sun. And the other 2 singles, In a Darkened Room and Quicksand Jesus, didn't fare nearly as well as Wasting Love. However, I think they might actually be better songs than Wasting Love. That's just my opinion, of course. The number of ballads on here though and what was released may have actually helped the album, or it may have hindered the album from going on to sell what the original debut album sold, which was the 5 million copies. This album here has actually fared less, selling less than half that at only 2 million. Still an impressive feat though by any means. But I remember at the time the album itself, each single being released gained less and less attention, and the album seemed to just sort of fade away towards the end of its promotional cycle. Now, remember though that this was 1991 into 1992. Grunge and alternative had broken into the mainstream, all of which affecting bands like Skid Row from this previous musical era from which they came. Also worthy of noting though is that there were 2 versions of the album out at the time, with the PMRC in full swing and albums being stickered for offensive material and lyrics, track number 6, called Get the F Out, was of course an immediate target at the time, in order so that the album itself could be sold at places like Walmart's and other stores that didn't sell albums with offensive lyrics on it, or albums that were stickered with the parental advisory logo on it. The track itself was removed and replaced with the song Beggar's Day. So there are both a clean version of the album and an album with explicit lyrics on it. Looking back at this album as a whole, I think it has aged very well and is less genre defined than its debut album, which sits firmly in the 80s, or the follow-up album, Subhuman Race, that came out in 1995 with its grunge influences that sits it firmly in the 90s. Slave to the Grind is Skid Row actually getting to be who they are. They weren't following any trend of the era. They weren't chasing any trends either. They were the trend setter at that time, showing that bands could in fact grow and change and bring their fans along for the ride. All right, hope you guys enjoyed this classic album review for the 30th anniversary of Skid Row's Slave to the Grind. Please leave your comments, let me know your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe. Take care, everyone. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you all real soon. Bye-bye.